Low poly games look like absolute dog shit.
You're the best looking guy here.
So that was a lie.
They all look like ass, and for some reason there's still people making games that look like this. Why? What a colossal waste of time. These characters are held at best by 3 polygons and some idiot will tell you they look good somehow. And that imbecile! That's me. Even 25 years later, I still think about them with all my heart. I follow pages dedicated to the aesthetics and still revisit them, more than any of these 300-hour cinematic masterpieces that comes out every single year. So I took on a challenge. Today I don't want to gently caress your possible nostalgia boner and tell you old is better. I am here to say that low poly is legitimately, unironically, artistically, objectively, and technically superior to everything being made post 2015. Kinda. Without wasting time, allow me to cook. I believe low poly works like reading a book. Your brain fills the blanks, letting missing details become the experience instead of something the game has to render for you completely. And this nerd shit talk, it's actually backed by Gestalt principles. When you look at it, your brain is wired to take incomplete shapes, rough silhouettes, loose clusters of pixels, and turn them whole. You see more than what's there because your mind completes the picture. Decades of pattern recognition studies boosts cognition, sensory input, long-term memory, yada yada yada. But all that's how losers think. I'd argue that this study alone isn't what makes low poly stick in people's memories. If it was just, haha, blocky spiky hair and big sword, you'd hear the most insufferable people flexing about Gestalt psychology at Reddit like it's a cheat code for great game art. That ain't it. It's because it hits deeper, personal. Abstraction lets you feel things. Your memories seep in. You don't remember the jagged geometry. You remember the emotion those pointy shapes carried. Stories told through it. Unique tone, compressed music, weird energy exploring undefined worlds. That's the imagination gap. Games give just enough. Your mind does the rest. And it all comes down to imperfection and simplicity being beautiful. High fidelity is eye candy to impress retards that think the only way to make something interesting is to make it as loyal to reality as possible. Like I said before, you know. Subjectively speaking, this whole video is somewhat opinionative. Your views may vary drastically from mine and you caught it straight from my words just now, but there's a reason why I got mad when writing that bit, and it comes down to perspective in the topic. And that's because when the chase for absolute perfection blurs direction, it all mixes and loses individuality. Imperfection is something that distinguishes art as a whole. When a high graphic fidelity game emerges, he gets constantly out-teched. Even when its art direction is good in a few cases, it still ages terribly most of the time, creating this bad gut feeling when you look back at them. And the main reason why we have way more video essays of creators talking about these stylized low poly games and these old 20-year-old jams is because they are timeless. They don't age aesthetically, simply because they are not trying to impress you with visuals, but with art. Sure, they were impressive back then, without a doubt, but I'd argue it's damn near impossible to find a hyper-realistic, impressive visuals game that it's truly beautiful and that it burns into your brain when it's all fidelity and little to zero art direction, which curiously shouldn't be like this exactly, right? How something simpler can be more memorable. And that, well, that's because aesthetics are only ever met to its full potential when they are limited. Entering the more technical and boring side of things, I'll talk about design since it's the thing I studied the most throughout my life and something I like to explore on most of my videos, if not all of them. When design is conceived in a media like a game, every stroke, every color, every piece of information is there for a reason. The more technology we have available, the more we use it. Just look at how AI is everywhere. Why do we need AI for a fridge? And when resolutions increased, the amount of total polygons that fills the entirety of Mario 64 are not able to cover the entirety of 2B's ass. That is when you will go crazy and give characters every possible detail. And as a huge failure of an artist myself, I cannot help but feel impressed by the sheer volume of information you have in modern characters. Their designs are so complicated and convoluted that you get distracted by the overall noise. I am unfortunately a VTuber fan and I'm trying to become one as well. I know, disgusting. But the reason why I used this example is because it nails down everything I say. The designs they spend hundreds of hours and money trying to make perfect, adding so much intricate detail and passion is really damn cool. I love it. But it breaks overall character readability. It's feature inflation in essence. Asymmetry, countless gradients, hair clips, belts. They are so cool and I studied them a lot for reference and nothing else, I swear to God. But when everything stands out, nothing stands out. And going back on rails, low poly forces hierarchy in character design. You create a strong silhouette with few colors and one or two iconic features to distinguish the characters. Its limitation forces you to only think of what needs to stick out, making it so that when you compare and look at the abstract simplicity of pixel art and the graphical peak being literal, you are able to find a midway point in readable, imaginative designs of low poly rendering. And you know, just to give an example and shine a light in one of the most fascinating things the internet has given us, I really want to talk about demakes and what makes them so special to me at least. Because it isn't just the novelty of modern game but old graphics, it's how they work. They're full-on reinterpretations of existing games, but rebuilt under brutal limitations. They force developers to communicate clarity without detail. If your design fundamentals aren't solid, a demake will expose it instantly. In a weird way, demakes are a celebration of limitation. Nobody plays them expecting them to be better than the original, that's not their role. They're charming because they embrace constraints. They feel good. And the reason they work so damn well is because they strip a game to its core, its essence. When graphical fidelity isn't there to flex, what's left? Gameplay, color, mood, composition. Demakes can't lean on technological spectacle and 2-hour cutscenes, so they have to lean on design. Again, it's not about being better. I still prefer original Bloodborne, but a demake lets you experience something familiar through a completely different lens, and that alone is cool as hell. And speaking of Bloodborne, yeah, I couldn't talk about low poly visuals without sending my love to horror games. No other genre benefits more from limitation than horror. It's the perfect fusion of style and theme, because horror follows one rule: the less you know, the scarier it gets. When you leave room for interpretation, simplicity becomes a weapon. A splash of gore hits harder when you can't fully make it out. A warped hallway in Silent Hill with mismatched tiles, stretched textures, ugly geometry somehow twists your stomach more than any hyper-detailed remake ever could. And it's not just violence and weirdness, the entire atmosphere feels wrong in a way only low resolution can do. One of my all-time favorites, Signalis, nails this. Its ambience feels deeply depressive and cold. And in those first-person segments, it becomes this uncomfortable mix of sadness and dread. That vibe wouldn't hit the same if everything were razor sharp. It's almost nightmare-like how effective horror becomes when fidelity isn't the priority. No wonder so many of the greats were born from hardware limitations. And honestly, as technology evolved, horror lost some of that impact. Compressed audio, crunchy effects, harsh reverb, those restrictions actually made things feel more visceral, more physical. Just like I said in Silent Hill F, you can check it out. I'm not saying realistic graphics can't be scary, but I still haven't felt true uncanniness from high-end visuals the way I do from those old beasts. And honestly, a lot of that comes down to production value and how indies can take risks the big studios won't due to graphics, pricing, playtime. If you want to dive deeper into this, I actually made one of my favorite videos on this exact topic that got no views. Anyway, feel free to check it out. And you know, all this made me think, the point of this video, honestly, I don't even know. This is my weirdest video I've done. To me, it's as simple as beauty. Beauty in art, in charm, in empty space your imagination gets to fill. This isn't a rant about how low poly is better than realism. It's just a love letter to simpler times. When I was a kid, lights off, controller in my hand, playing Crash, Spyro, Tekken, Metal Gear, all the stuff that shaped how I am and why I love video games. And you know, those times, they aren't coming back. It's half nostalgia, half admiration for the artists who had to make entire worlds fit into 300 megabytes, roughly the size of 1 inch of Chun-Li's thighs. It's just acknowledgement of a weird era where full 6 to 8 hour games were smaller than a modern bug fix patch. And yet, somehow they hit harder for a lot of people, even the young ones. They stuck with people in a way a lot of recent AAA games simply can't. And yeah, it's not just aesthetics, writing, direction, pacing, all of that matters too. But when I look at modern games with truly interesting art styles, they almost always comes from indie developers. Developers who aren't in a tech arms race to impress the slop eaters. Developers who understand the value of restraint and embrace it. I am just happy I get to see so many talented people keeping that old magic alive. Because if there's one thing this entire topic keeps reminding me, it's that when you create with emotion before technology, creativity thrives. And seeing that spirit, that aesthetic, that mindset survive all these years, man, that makes me really, really genuinely happy. Low poly may be outdated, but its soul isn't. And if there's one thing everyone should learn from them is that less is more.